On the grading line, we built their packers and mulchers. Now, Dick Otley is your territory manager up here in the state of New York. He lives up by Syracuse, so he handles all the dealers in this part of the country and takes care of issues, problems, sales schools, and things like that. And Dick and I primarily work with our blue line tillage, the Landoll Tillage. So that's what we specialize in. We do work a little bit with the Brazilian line, but that's not our primary focus. We have the other people who do that, and we feel that we're a little more versed. I just want to show you some numbers quickly, and then I'll tell you the reason I do this. We process about 300,000 pounds of steel a day. That's about 74 million pounds a year. We use about 190 tires a day. We use about 170 cylinders, 4,200 feet of hydraulic hose per day, 2,600 pounds of welding wire. The reason I like to show people this is we're just one of many, many, many agriculture companies in the United States. And when you hear people talking on news programs on TV about what drives the North American economy, we don't have to take a back seat to anything. Because these are just a few items that we use. We need to promote ourselves more that agriculture is a good backbone here for the U.S. What I want to talk a little bit about is I've been involved in farm operation all my life. I grew up on a farm down in Kansas, went to school, came back, wanted to farm. I coached some ball farmers. I tested and cut for 8 or 9 years. Went to work for a small manufacturer in a local town there. I then transgressed as they were sold. Been with Landoll now about 7 years. It's been a good move. I like working for a privately owned company versus a large corporation. A lot less bureaucracy. But what I'm going to talk about here, like I said, I can't come to Kansas and tell you guys how to farm, but I think we have a few of the same issues regardless of where we farm. Possibly we've got some tools that can solve some situations you're in, and that's what we want to talk about. If you have questions, be sure to answer, or be sure to ask. I've always thought there's 4 ways to increase profit on a farm. More acres. I don't know about up here in New York, but down in our country, our land prices have skyrocketed. It's kind of risky right now buying farm ground and risking what you've already got, because if we do ever have a fallout like they have in the housing market, we could get ourselves in trouble. A better marketing plan. I don't know about you guys, but every time I sell grain a week later, I wish I'd waited. It seems like it always goes up after I've sold. Reduce expenses. Well, you can try cutting corners, a little less fertilizer, a little less seed, a little less chemical, but that always seems to catch up in the end and it reduces yield. So the main way that I think we can increase our income is to increase yields. Now, we work every day at our company with people that have tremendous variation in the way they farm. And I think that just makes sense because of soil types, because of climate, because of things like that. We work with people that farm their ground black, and then we work with people that also do no-till. No-till acres are not rising in North America, they're actually going down. There's a lot of problems developed. I'm not here to bash no-till, but they're running into residue problems, getting through the residue, weed resistant. You know, a lot of weeds are becoming resistant, so we're seeing these acres drop off. Maybe not doing full-blown tillage, but they're starting to do some type of tillage. When you stop and think about it, a huge percent of the control that we've got over a crop starts the day after we harvest the crop until the next season when we put it in the ground. So basically, preparing a seed bed is, you know, that time period where we prepare a seed bed is where we dictate a lot of what's going to happen after we plant the next crop. We're looking for an even soil temperature, so when we plant that corn or bean or whatever we put in the ground, we want the emergence to be even throughout the field. We want the same soil density so that root growth is all the same throughout the field. We don't have stunted growth in spots. We don't want any weed competition. We want something that if we have some growing weeds, we'll get rid of it. We want to leave some residue coverage. I think it's just good conservation practices to do that. We need to get sunlight, we need to get air to that plant. Now, whether you farm in Kansas or whether you farm in New York, I think we run into the same thing where we have a density change in the soil. And I'm not an agronomist, but I've set in your seat a lot of times where I'm involved in farm operations, so I go to a lot of meetings so I can learn. And what the agronomists talk about is when you plant a seed in the ground, to get proper root growth, it's got to have the same density in the soil all the way down. You don't want to put it in soft dirt and it goes down 4 inches and then hits a density change or a hard pan, and the roots start to spread instead of keeping a straight, uniform growth line. What I've been led to believe in these meetings is, and I'll take for example a corn plant, perfect root growth is a 35-degree angle. That gives you very good stability on your corn plant that's above the ground. What I've been told is that you want the root of your depth to go the same depth as your plant is grown above the ground. So if you've got a 10-foot stalk of corn, you need a 10-foot root growth. But if you do have a density change in that soil, the root's going to start and then it's going to take off in a lateral pattern, trying to find the least path of resistance before it goes down. So we truly believe that using tillage, all compaction is man-made. We're running out there with combines, with tractors, with grain carts, with manure spreaders. Any tools we take out there and cross that ground with, we're going to create some type of compaction. So our main goal in tillage, our initial operation is we're trying to reset the soil density so it's the same, so that that plant can get the proper growth. A lot of reasons that we do that is to manage our soil health, is to keep the soil covered as much as possible. We don't want the ground to blow, we don't want it to wash. We want to get some things like that. We do not want to work the ground any more than we have to, or we're out there establishing a hard pan. A lot of farmers like to keep, a cover crop going, so they're feeding that soil year round. And a big part of it is we need to diversify crops so that we get different root systems growing in the ground and they feed off of each other. Another few reasons it's a good idea to do tillage. Number one, when you get that residue chopped up, this BT corn stuff now is getting a lot tougher. It starts that biological breakdown of that residue out there. It starts with microbial action. The bugs get to working in it. And what this all does, it creates soil tilth. And tilth is like the pores in a sponge that suck water. And we want to get all the water we can to go down in the ground and not wash off and go down the river. So those are all important things. Now we've done a lot of tests on doing fall tillage. And we've gone into fields and we'll work half of it when the soil temperature is above 50 degrees. We'll wait until the ground temperature cools down to the low 40s and then we'll work the other half. When you come back out the next spring, it's amazing the difference in the brittleness and the decaying of that residue when that temperature is above 50 degrees. I think the biological breakdown, microbes start working better, and it'll deteriorate it a lot faster. Other reasons for selection, just to get your plant started right, improved uniformity of the stand. I've gone and driven across the country before several times, and corn's been in the ground 4 weeks, and some of it's 3 feet tall. There might be a low spot where water stood and it hadn't been worked, and it's 2 feet tall. So we want to keep the plants even all the way across. If we spread fertilizer like manure or dry fertilizer, obviously we want to incorporate that. We want to use a tool to incorporate it the right depth so that your plant gets to it the quickest. And then of course if we have any weeds or anything like that, we want to be sure that we can knock them down. The disc has been a tool that's been used for years and years, and it's a good tool. It's got blamed for a lot of things as far as compacting the ground. I've always thought that when you have a bad situation out there, like it's been wet, the weeds are growing, you've got combine ruts out there you need to level out. There's no other tool to go out there with but a disc. Well, when you pack the ground, they got blamed for it. But when in reality, any tool you took out there was going to pack the ground. But the disc was the only thing that worked. At Landoll, we build discs from 21 to 36 feet. Within a year, we're going to have some smaller sizes and some bigger sizes. We've got a heavy disc. It's weight class with about 580 pounds a foot. We use 8 3/4 inch spacing. The back blades split the front ones. So you've got a blade cut in the ground about every 4 3/8 inches. And if you put that in the ground over 3 inches deep and drag all the dirt away, you completely cut that into a flat profile. Now, disc does an excellent job of chopping up your residue, mixing dirt with it, starting that biological breakdown that I talked about. But what it doesn't do is take care of your deep tillage. But it's a good tool. There's more. We have more discs on the order than we ever have in history. So I mean, the market for that is good. There's a lot of people still using discs in this tool. If you want a combination tool, this is a disc ripper or a disc chisel. You've got disc gangs, you've got shanks in between the front gangs and rear gangs. We've got tools. This is a 2211 disc ripper or rip all. We've got two different shanks that we can put on here, a standard parabolic chisel shank, or we can put a straighter shank that we put a ripper point on. And what this tool will accomplish is it'll chew up your residue, mix dirt with your residue, but you can also get into about that 14-inch layer if you want to work it that deep. We make a couple other tools in this class. We make a weatherproofer, which has got a larger, deeper shank. You can get down to the 16, 17-inch range. So what I'm saying is, we want to talk here later about if any of these tools fit your operation. We want to talk one-on-one about those. Here's a picture of our weatherproofer, which has the large ripper shank, parabolic shank. We can get down into that 16, 17-inch range. We do have disc gangs in front of it. You can see how it's worked the stocks up, and then we do the ripping, and then we have a leveling attachment on the rear. I think a lot of people ignore working their soybean ground. There's not a lot of residue out there. They don't want to turn it black in the fall. But as I drive across the country in the springtime, the low spots all seem to be a different color. They got water standing, and obviously on the side hills when your snow melts, that water's not going in the ground, it's running to the low spots. I like the inline ripper. We built the model number is a 1550 ripper. It opens that ground up. It doesn't get rid of your residue. It breaks up that compaction layer, and you can come in with a spring tillage tool and in one pass make a seed bed. So I think it complements your spring tillage needs. We make field cultivators from 20 feet up to 50. We make 3-section models from 20 feet to 34 feet. We make 5-section models from 38 to 40. We've got some machines outside, and I'm going to try to wrap up before it gets too dark, and we can walk out there and show you some of these things if you're interested in that. But this is a tool that you see used a lot, either that or a combination like a till all or a finish all that has disc gangs across the front that will help with residue if you didn't get a good job done with the fall tool. In the last few years, there's been some knocks on using a sweep type tool in the spring. We've seen a lot of trends change. Some of the drawbacks are, and I've never had success with like a cultivator shank running in the ground less than 2 or 3 inches deep to get the dirt to flow around behind the shank, close that shank track, and just do a nice level job. The problem with that is, if you're going to work in the ground 3 inches deep and plant your seed an inch deep, you immediately have got loose dirt below that seed that is going to sprout very nice and goes down, and suddenly there's a density change. And what's the root system going to do? It's going to spread. It's not going to keep the 35-degree angle, and I refer back to it. So there's been a little knock on that. The other thing it can do, if it's real wet out there, it'll smear a little zone there below that sweep. It just kind of like paints it below the ground. That's a paint strip. So once again, we've got a thin crust there that root system's got to break through. The third thing is, if you've not had a really good fall tillage tool to chop that residue up, we call them beaver huts down there where I live, that bunches residue up and leaves it laying in piles. In 2008, we'd had a lot of people come to us farm shows, and they said there's a tool out there that they liked what it was doing, but it wasn't really doing exactly what they needed. They were straight core type tools. The term vertical tillage had come up where they were using these tools so they didn't have a sweep and went through the ground. It chopped up that residue, but it didn't move any dirt laterally. It wasn't level, and it left all that residue laying on top of the ground, and it didn't keep dirt mixed with it, so the biological breakdown started. So we got interested in getting into that market.